You can find the replay. It's in the Facebook group. And if you signed up to the email list, amandatessa.com/awaken, then you'll get the replays emailed to you. And yesterday we dove into awakening your inner goddess and exploring some of the foundations of awakening your sensual power, such as connecting to your desires, finding easy ways to enjoy your sensuality, and kind of understanding how the soul seed archetype supports you in that. So you can really nourish yourself in your divine essence. And today we are going to dive deeper in how to access this when it doesn't feel so easy to do, right? Because oftentimes it's easy to feel good when things are going well, when life is all going in alignment with how we want it. But often that's not reality most of the time. And one of the reasons that I decided to do this right now, as we shift into this new season, as we shift into fall here where I am in Denver, Colorado, and just kind of noticing the rhythms that needed to shift in my own life because I can tell over the summer I got a little out of practice with some of my normal routines and things that I do to really care for myself because I know when I do what I need to do that it makes such a difference in how I react to my family, to my kid when they're pushing my buttons, all the things. And the past few weeks have been a challenging one for parenting. And so I really was thinking, man, this is so timely because I need to remember this and remind myself of all the things that support me. And as I have been implementing those things again, it's night and day how I can hold my family and how unfortunately, oftentimes as the primary parent, however that is in your relationship, for me as the mom in my relationship, I tend to do a lot more of the caregiving. And frankly, probably because I have a little more patience for it. And I think that sometimes can feel frustrating. We're going to talk more about relationships tomorrow, but often it can feel frustrating when you feel like you hold so much and are always the one that maybe has to calm people down or get everything smoothed over there. Or, I think oftentimes as the primary parent, we set the tone for the household, for our community, our friends, and all of that. The more that we nourish ourselves, the more it serves everyone. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit more about kind of what that means to get underneath the resistances and the patterns and the things that keep us from fully living in our aliveness and our feminine fire and feeling sensually alive and feeling like we even want to, right? That's another thing I hear a lot of times from clients is that, they want to feel sensual, they want to feel sexual, they want to feel their libido online, but it just doesn't happen like it once did, or, they want to get back to that. And so that's a very common thing that, and especially as we go through life's transitions or maybe have a challenging time of life, honoring the natural cycles, but also knowing that there are things we can do to make it feel better. And maybe just starting if you can and have ability to put your feet on the ground and maybe kind of like tap your feet or rub your feet on the ground just to kind of feel yourself supported by the floor. And just take 3 deep breaths, even if you want to let an audible sigh come out on the exhale. Ah, ah. There was an intention setting workbook, as well as yesterday, if you were on the email list, you got the sensual self care journaling workbook. And so that really kind of helps to anchor in all that we did yesterday. And with that said, we're going to move on into today. Tomorrow, like I said, we'll be talking more about relationships. I think some of you I know too because I've worked with you or I've kind of I don't know, known you over the years, or maybe you've been a student, but just to give you a little brief view or story about who I am, I'm Amanda Testa, and I am a trusted healer. I am a sex and relationship coach and somatic trauma resolution guide, and I've been doing this work for almost a decade now. And I've served hundreds of clients over the years, as well as many students. And something that I really so much love about this work is that no matter where we are, or no matter how hard it might feel to get to where we want to go, we all have that capacity within us. As I mentioned yesterday, that's what I really kind of think connecting to your inner goddess is all about, is remembering that you are sacred, that you are divine simply by just being here. By getting those blueprints back online, those blueprints of health, you are able more easily to embrace your relationship with yourself, with your sexuality, with the people you love, kind of feel that sexy confidence return and be able to enjoy the intimacy that you crave and enjoy your body in the way you want and feel good in the body in the way you want. because it's never about, what we look like. It's about what we feel like on the inside out, right? And how we can love our or, find more enjoyment in the the body we're in right this minute, right? Even when the world can have a lot to say about that, we get to choose how we feel about ourselves. I also am a mom and I'm married and I have been in my relationship with my husband now. We've been together for about 15 years, all in, and we still have the most amazing connection because we actively work on it. And I'll talk more about that tomorrow. But there's we've done a lot of healing. We've been through a lot of ups and downs like every relationship. But one of the things that I think really is key in all of this is our relationship with ourself, right? And so I'm going to talk a little bit now. I mentioned yesterday a little bit about the soul seed archetype and why I love working with archetype. And the reason why is because you can't just go out if you want to feel sexy, or you can't just go out and like buy the fancy underwear, whatever it is. You can't just do those things. You have to really work with what's inside that might be holding you back from getting to what you want. And so yesterday we touched a little bit on the soul seed, but I want to walk you through the archetypes just a little bit. And the reason I love working with archetypes is because when we can connect to, they're kind of universal, right? So it makes it easier to connect to. And not only do they kind of follow a path, like if you think of a flower blooming and growing, like we can bloom into our most magnificent selves, that it's also kind of a developmental thing as well, right? So when you think about the soul seed, I like to think of it as like literally a seed. And as the archetypes work their magic, that seed can bloom fully. So all our blueprints of health can come online. And when I'm talking about blueprints of health, what I mean is your original essence, like the way that you came into this earth, perfect, divine, sacred as you still are in life. All the junk that gets thrown on us, the imprints, the bad things that happen, the challenges, the stressors, all of that kind of leaves these imprints. So we don't always act from the blueprint or live our lives from that blueprint. We live from the shadow of the imprint. And so the beautiful thing is that we can work with, there's things that we can do to like bring the health back and to bring the radiance back. And everyone has capacity to do it. And I'm blown away day in and day out at my clients when I can just see that blueprint come online because you have the capacity within you. And it just is my job to help remind you of that and help you remember. And I also know that anytime we talk about things like this, I invite you to please get comfortable and make sure that if you need to move, if you need to make a sound, if you need to, whatever it is, tune into your needs as we chat, because that's an important thing too, is just listening to what your body needs. And even if you need to take a breath anytime, one of the things that I find so important in this work around sexuality and pleasure is to find the things that resource you. And when I say resource you, that help you feel good and pleasant and supported. Even just now, I want to just share a couple quick examples of how to do this is just kind of thinking like, is there something in the physical realm in this moment that helps me feel a little more, grounded, a little more pleasant, a little more feeling good, even if it's in a small way. Sometimes good might not be accessible yet. Maybe just like I'm feeling all right, feeling grounded. And so I like to do that by maybe there's something in your space. Maybe there's something you like to look at. For me, today I'm using like this lovely wrap that my friend gave me. And I love it because it's comfortable and it's cozy and it's one of those fall days that's cold in the mornings. And so it's feeling just right. So maybe for you, what's something physical? And the second thing would be, what is something that might be, like a thought or something emotional that feels good for you? Yeah, and you can feel free to share in the chat. Ooh, I love it. I'm massaging my face with rose oil. Ah, beautiful. What else might it be for you? Anything else like a thought that feels good to think, or maybe it's even, something spiritual, like feeling support from an ancestor, a loving guide, feeling support from something from nature, from the sun, whatever it might be. Feeling just like oftentimes, sometimes I just like to think that feeling of that gravity, like holding me to the ground and feeling that support of gravity holding me to the ground. So maybe thinking what that might be for you. And even just doing this right now, how might it feel to bring in a little more of what feels good? Bring in a little more of what feels supportive. Maybe just notice what comes up for you. And at any time, you can always remember those things throughout your day when it feels challenging, when it feels like, harder to connect to your feminine fire, when you feel like you really need it. Then, when you can put yourself in those kind of resourced, remembering those things that help you just settle a little bit can really help. And the first part of this is the seed, right? We start with the archetype of the soul seed. And we did a little bit of this yesterday because the soul seed is really a lot about connecting to your needs, connecting to your desires, remembering the things that light you up. That kind of stuff is very, that's the kind of thing that we often don't have time to do in our busy lives. And just taking that time to slow down, touching in to what you want, and also feeling into worthiness and receptivity. Remember this state of being able to receive what you need, being able to, first of all, know what that is. That's how we connect to our desires. And then working through being able to speak what you want, being able to receive what you want and actually enjoy receiving, because that is another hard part, right? Oftentimes when things get good, we're like, oh no, is the other shoe going to drop? Or it feels too good to be getting all this support, or this is too much pleasure for me. I don't know if I might have to pop out. I don't know if I can enjoy all this pleasure, right? But like kind of moving through healing any of those wounds or any of the messaging that the culture might have put on you that you aren't deserving of what you want, that you don't matter, or that you're not allowed to have needs, right? Just reblooming this ability to receive, reblooming your ability to see from yourself and also from others, because that's a big part of it too, in relationship to others, to be, to enjoy that. And I have I like a cool story I like to say share around this, because one of my clients, she oftentimes we don't realize what the things are that are holding us back in our sexuality, right? There could be all kinds of things. And sometimes when we dive in, like, well, that was surprising. But she was really struggling in her confidence in her business and wanted to be more, feel better about, showing her true self. We kind of worked together to integrate some intense family relationships. And through that, she was able to have a new relationship to her worth. And that in turn enabled her to be able to turn around, start to sell her work at a price that felt good to her and put herself out there. And she even did a TEDx talk. So she really moved through a lot, because there's so much underneath the surface that can hamper our worthiness. And as women, specifically in this culture, that's the messaging that we get, right? No matter what we do, it's not enough. I mean, some of the success from Barbie is all around like those messages of women trying to do everything and never feeling like it's enough, or, women identifying people, it's never enough. So that's a lot about this first archetype of the soul seed. And we did a little of that yesterday. The next is the gatekeeper. And this is all around sovereignty and boundaries. So the gatekeeper archetype, it's really like that. So you've got your little seed and it's starting to sprout. And then you got to put the little gate around to keep the critters from eating it. And if you think about it, you don't want the little bunnies to eat your little sprouts. But the gatekeeper brings this gift of being able to feel, what do I want to say yes to? What are the things that serve me? What are the things that nourish me? What are the things that support me to thrive? What are the things that I say no to? Right? What are the things that drain my life force? What are the things that suck, like, our energy vampires, right? What are the things that I need to say no to? And so part of this process is a big one, right? Because boundaries are not easy. And I work with a lot of people that have not been able to say no, or, are people pleasers. And that's actually not always serving us. And sometimes that can even be a trauma response in the way we show up as fawning, of just like wanting to please everyone around us, wanting to make sure everybody else is okay. Right. But so when we can work with plumping up that health of healthy boundaries, of knowing and trusting what is our embodied yes, what is my embodied no, for the sake of our greatest growth. Right. And so one of my clients, she was like many, managing a lot of things, a mom of three, big corporate job. She was married, trying to do all the things, saying yes to all the things, all the committees at school and work, and just really overwhelmed. And oftentimes when we get into that pleasing mode of wanting to do everything, it can, of course, we forget what the true yeses and nos are sometimes, right? And so sometimes there's some unwinding there, but through working together and really getting clear, she was able to say no to a lot of these commitments that were draining her. And that was hard, like working through all the things that are standing in the way of being able to say no, to feel confident in saying no, that she was able to say no to some of the things that were draining her energy and free up more time for herself. And she actually started painting again, which was a huge thing that she used to do and loved and had not done in about 10 years. And so then through that, she was able to just enjoy more connection with her family and her husband because then she made time, more conscious time to spend with them. So I share that because, these boundaries are big. And also, of course, hello, when we talk about sexuality, boundaries are very big of being able just to kind of know, even in any situation. And it changes moment to moment. Like, what is feeling good? What am I wanting to say yes to? And what am I wanting to say no to? So it's kind of like using that as an embodied practice on the regular of how to do this. And then once you've got your little gatekeeper, your sprout's starting to bloom a little bit, and it's maybe starting to flower now, right? And as it flowers, this is when we welcome our expressionista, our full self expression. This is where we can let go of shame, where we can share our gifts fully, where we can be visible and really feel like we can share from a heart opened place that feels good. The other thing around here, which is so huge when it comes to working with sexuality and feeling confident and expressing ourselves, is shame, right? And so through this part, we really work to heal that shame, heal the repression that's keeping you from shining your brightest, from being your full sensual self, from truly claiming your desires and what you want in the bedroom and outside of the bedroom and feeling good in that, right? Being able to express your true authentic self, your true medicine, your true creativity, your true gifts, sharing the fullness of your heart with love and power, just being able to feel that sexy confidence return. And this can also be a time where we kind of unwrite a lot of the stories that we have been taught around sex, around sexuality, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. And then after the expression, then you're becoming more like this flower is starting to become more mature, right? It's feeling safer to express itself. It's knowing when to say yes and when to say no. It's meeting its needs. Now it's when the sage comes online. And the sage is your most wise self, right? We touched a little bit yesterday through it when we did our embodied practice on connecting to that, empowered self, which is kind of another way you can tap into the sage. But this is the ability to really trust yourself, to honor yourself, to trust your leadership, to know your truth, to stop doubting yourself, to stop doubting your abilities, and to really, kind of heal manipulation, control that has happened in your life, re blooming your capacity to sense your inner wisdom, to hear your inner wisdom, to know your inner wisdom, right? And lead a life of integrity. This is such a big one because a lot of the clients that I work with really struggle with the self trust piece. And being able to trust yourself, I think the beautiful part in here is knowing that, like, through doing a lot of this work, which a lot of it is, working with your nervous system, which we're going to talk more about in a minute, but like working with what is coming up in resistance to what you want so that you can really know that you can hold anything that comes across your plate. And it helps that fear or that lack of self trust because you know that no matter what, you'll be able to hold it. You'll be able to handle it. You'll be able to find the resources that you need to support you. So it's a big one. And then we also bring in the groundskeeper. So now that the flower is beautiful, we want to like just pause and make sure, are we doing the things that serve us? That's what I love about these kind of 3-day events is we can stop and tune in to tend to ourselves, to tune back into what we want. And when you think about a groundskeeper, it's kind of wandering around, tending, weeding and watering, making sure that the plants are in the right spot to get the right amount of sunlight they need, right? And so this is all around tending to yourself, nourishing your body with the rituals and routines that serve you deeply, remembering and cultivating the practices that serve your vitality, your resilience, your health, healing, rhythms that aren't healthy, reblooming the rhythms that support you, that help you cultivate that stability, that vitality, that resiliency. It's a big one. And this is, the thing about these archetypes is they do kind of build on one another. So when I'm taking clients through this journey, sometimes we jump around because there's certain times when certain archetypes might be needed more than others. But, you can kind of see there is a bit of a journey here. And now this is when it feels really yummy to start playing even more fully in your sexual realms. Because again, I feel like throughout the years I've been working with clients, people want to find the solutions to their sex problems right now today. But often there's things under the surface that we have to work with first so that you can really truly enjoy that sensual aliveness that you want. And so here is when the pollinator comes to play. So if you think about a pollinator, it's dancing through the flowers, it's like sucking up the nectar of life, drinking all the pollen and just like having the time of its life. Like I just picture a little bee like heavy with pollen and just bumbling around. But here is where we get to really embrace and enhance your sensuality. So, this is where you're also connected to your ancestors, your land. You can do that work around really finding that grounding and that rooting. You know your passions, your full sexual expression is celebrated and welcomed. So, this is also where we move through healing isolation, alienation, and disconnection from community, reblooming that intimate relationship to yourself to because I think the relationship that we have with ourselves first and foremost, and then from there, a relationship to ourselves, to our sexuality, to our land, to our lineage, to sensuality, to sex, to togetherness. So this is when we get to really bloom in that area. And finally, is the co-creation. Like this is our most mature self when we embody the sacred gardener. And the sacred gardener is all about honoring our wild sacred nature of ourselves and the collective and nature, right? That honoring the wildness is where we let go of the wounds of our extractive culture, which is all about extraction, doing, giving all of yourself till there's nothing left. And then also reblooming right relationship with time, power, and each other. So I really love this. This is a lot about healing the bigger picture wounds, colonization, capitalization, white supremacy, these big issues that once we are our most mature selves, we have so much better capacity to handle and hold and reblooming these right relationships to time, to each other, and co-creating with life itself. This is really kind of a more of a spiritual connection too, when we can start doing a lot more deeper spiritual practices because you're in a place where you can actually receive the wisdom and even more fully be yourself in the world. All right, so I know that's a lot, but we're going to take a step into embodied trust now. I want to pause. I'm going to stop the share now so I can actually see you. And feel free if you want to put your video on, great. If you don't, that's okay too. But I'm curious, even just hearing the kind of the journey that we take to fully bloom in our sexual selves and our aliveness. Maybe if there's any questions that have come up, any emotions, and just maybe take a minute because I know that's kind of again giving yourself 3 more breaths here. That's a lot. And obviously, we can't go through all of these in 3 days, but I kind of gave you a little bit of the soul seed yesterday. Today, we're just kind of getting the journey, and I'm going to walk you through a little bit more about the power of doing this deeper somatic resolution of the things that are holding us back. Because again, when we are when we're working with our bodies and our nervous systems, they're whatever happens in our lives is still hanging around somewhere. They say that oftentimes our issues are in our tissues, which I don't always love that phrase, but the truth of the matter is that we do hold on to the things in our lives. So one of the things that I've learned through lots of years of doing somatic trauma resolution and working with clients in this capacity is when we give our bodies the chance to like move through things, move through stuck emotions, let stress cycles let things that happen complete in the present day in a safe enough container with a caring guide that we can heal so much and that we can come back to this aliveness even more. And so I want to give you kind of a little introduction into what that is like so that because you can also do this for yourself oftentimes, right? So often we are trying to be in opposition of what might be happening at the level of our body. And sometimes that's like learning a foreign language because it really is in a lot of ways. It can be like learning a foreign language. When we're tuning into our body's wisdom, what does that mean? So when we tune into our body's wisdom, obviously our mind is part of our body, right? We're a complete whole unit. But it's also kind of going beyond sometimes what the stories in our mind is telling us, what maybe the repetitive thoughts that we have, or the negative voices, or whatever it might be, the stories that we're spinning. our brains love to try to make meaning. And so it's, okay, to taking a break from that and dropping into what else might I be noticing happening at the level of my body. And this is a skill called interoception. So it's when you can kind of tune into your body's sensations, temperature, needs on a physiological level. So, for example, even just right now, you can tune into this by noticing, okay, what's the temperature I'm feeling on my skin? What might I notice on my skin? Right? Maybe is there a speed that you might feel in your system right now? Is it maybe more fast or more slow? Maybe is there any kind of sensation that you notice in your body right now, like maybe any kind of tightness or looseness or tingling or tension or like contraction or openness, maybe just kind of noticing anything like that that you feel. And you can always go back to the beginning, right? When we were just feeling our feet on the ground. Sometimes it's even like, can I just like, if I rub my feet on the floor, can I feel it? If I stamp my feet on the ground, can I feel that, what it feels like to like not only like touch the floor with my feet, but can I also feel what it feels like for my foot to touch the floor? Yeah. So the beautiful thing about learning our body's wisdom is that we can more deeply listen to, like I mentioned earlier, what are the things that I'm feeling a yes to? What are the things that my body is moving towards? What is my body opening to? And does that feel good? Right? What are the things that I might be wanting more space from? What are the things my body is like, no, right? What are the things that I'm like, I'm not sure about that. I need to take some space and figure this out. Right? This is kind of how we can start learning to listen. And of course, this is so connected to embracing and expressing our feminine fire, because we're not going to want to necessarily do that all the time. And that's normal. But the more we can kind of figure out what is it that's really making me feel comfortable to open and be my true self, I want to be around more things like that. I want to be in more environments like that versus ones that are making me feel like this. And also just in our culture, holding all of that we do, sometimes it's beyond our control, right? There's so much we cannot control. I talked a lot about this yesterday. And but when we can just give time, even little bits of pockets of time, where we can just kind of feel what is and be with what is, it lets our body just process some of that. So I want to take you now through a a meditation that kind of can give you an opportunity just to kind of be with yourself and maybe just tend to whatever you need right here and now. And so if you want to do this, I'll invite you. You can, if you want to sit, if you want to lay down, however you want to be comfortable, you can drop into this. So I'll invite you to just kind of tune in what that would be for you right now that would feel the most comfortable. How you might want to receive this in a way that feels good. And again, you can, if you want to, you can leave your eyes open, maybe just soften your gaze. Sometimes it can feel good, like especially when we're watching something, is to kind of just look up from the computer for a minute and maybe even just like kind of notice the periphery of your vision, widen your view. And if it feels good to close your eyes, you can for sure close your eyes if that feels right. Or maybe just again, soften your gaze, look down, just relax. And I want to walk you through this embodied trust meditation. This is a great first step in kind of learning to listen to the language of our body so we can tune in. What are the things that are making me feel good? What are the things I like? Maybe what's not? And can I just be with what is, not trying to change it? Because so much of our world is asking us to be out of harmony with our bodies. And it's no wonder that as we move through the world, when we've learned from a young age not to even listen to our body's needs, I think about, my daughter when she was in kindergarten, they only let them go to the bathroom at certain times of the day. And I had to go have a talk with the teacher because I was like, these kids need to learn to listen to their body's impulses. If their body is telling them they need to go to the bathroom, they need to go to the bathroom. Their body is telling them they need to drink some water. They need to drink some water. So our culture just from a young age indoctrinates us not to be able to feel our body's needs, not to be able to listen to what it wants, right? We just override that. So it's no wonder that as we move through the world, it can feel challenging to know, or that we sometimes might say yes when we mean no, or that, we have these imprints that happen. And so in this meditation, you're going to practice a fundamental skill in connecting to your embodied trust. Because the more you can even just listen to your own self, the more you can trust yourself to be in harmony with the cues, the impulses, and the desires of your body and your being, the more responsive, resilient, and safe you'll find yourself in the world. So, again, just kind of noticing, can you soften a little bit? Is there any tension that you're holding? Maybe taking another breath and just noticing if it feels okay to just soften, maybe just like 1 or 2% more. Maybe relaxing your jaw. And again, just maybe, kind of orienting a little bit to where you are, the time of day, season where you are, what position your body is in right now, just even in this moment. And noticing if you feel comfortable or uncomfortable. And even just right now, what would it look like? What would it feel like? How might you want to move to be in a more comfortable position? And giving yourself a moment just to attune to that comfort need, just here and now. And as allow yourself to get into a more comfortable position, maybe just letting your attention drift inward, letting your intention drift inside, like if you could take a little elevator down into your body, or even on the outside of your body, maybe in just the periphery. And what are the sensations that you might be experiencing just here and now? Again, it could just be feeling the weight of your body on the chair beneath you, noticing the temperature in different parts of your body. Again, maybe any sensations of fast or slow. Really kind of giving permission for whatever is here or not here to be. Not trying to change anything. You're just kind of doing a curious exploration. Maybe somewhere there might feel like there's constriction or pain. Maybe somewhere else there's more ease or neutrality. Just allowing yourself to notice. Just attune to what's happening in your body and being just here and now. Oftentimes, when we try to meditate or move through the world, we try to change the experience that we're having so that we can imagine we're doing it right. There's no right or wrong way here. Sometimes we just want to meet someone else's standard or that we can avoid discomfort in the meditation. But we're just going to really try to do our best to harmonize with what is happening. So, like being whatever is here, allowing it versus trying to push it away or wanting it to be different. Just giving a few moments to just allowing. So, for example, if you're feeling fatigue, just allowing the fatigue, cooperation, right? Cooperating with fatigue, being in consent with the fatigue. Or maybe it's something that feels pleasant. Maybe if you're feeling something that feels pleasant, how might it feel to go with that? How might it want you to be with it? Maybe just imagining, even if in some small, gentle way, what could you do to create harmony with whatever is already happening with your body? So, kind of moving with the momentum of what is happening. And also noticing just right here and now what might emerge from below your mental space. So, any instincts, any impulses, any visions, any perspectives that might want to just naturally emerge. And again, this is a practice. But as we attune to what's happening in our bodies and gently move into cooperation with them and do these little things, the relationship between our body and our mind becomes more trusting. So noticing again what's what's here and now in your body just right now. And again, feeling for any instincts or impulses that might arise. How might you want to be in relationship with what's happening inside of you? What you might you imagine that would be cooperative or harmonious? Or what small thing might you do with just the most micro movement, the micro tiny movement, to be in consent with your body just here and now? And as we move through that second wave of this practice, just notice what's arising for you. And if you trusted yourself to be in cooperation with your whole being, just a little bit more right here and now, what might you allow yourself to do, or to be, or to embody? Beautiful. The more you allow yourself to practice this meditation, the more your foundation of self trust will grow. And therefore, you'll be more able to trust yourself and others, or to not. And really kind of knowing that you can trust what's arising, being in consent with what's arising. And just taking a minute to thank yourself right here and now for taking this time to cultivate relationship, to cultivate this sacred ground of relationship between you and your body. And just taking a moment to integrate and really just honoring whatever came up for you. Sometimes that can feel challenging. Sometimes there can be emotion. Sometimes, when we just can give ourselves that minute to just do what our body wants to do, it might feel kind of maybe even a little bit frightening sometimes when what it wants to do is like, oh, all right, well, I'm just going to go along. But usually it's in service, right? 'Cause so often we don't really listen. And the more we can slow down and learn to listen, and even if it's just for a few moments, just letting whatever's there be versus trying to fight it or want it to be different, and give an opportunity to move, and something new can emerge next, oftentimes. And that's really kind of the basis of what it looks like and feels and can feel like to just touch the surface on kind of resolving some of these things that might be standing in the way. So as yesterday we worked on connecting with the desires and kind of some simple ways to use your five senses to tap into your sensuality. And this can kind of take it a little step further, even when it feels like what you want is out of grasp, or when it feels like, well, I want this, but I keep finding myself in these patterns that aren't in that direction, or I want this, but sometimes I find it challenging to make the time, or, I want to feel more connected to myself, but sometimes it doesn't feel good. And even just letting like being with the not feeling good for a few moments can like allow something to move. Yeah, it needs rest. I think sometimes that just the exhaustion that can be felt is sometimes even just like for a minute. Like, what if that part of you that wants to sleep, what if it could just for this next minute just to rest? Like what the most beautiful environment in which to rest look like? Like if you could imagine that part, like just maybe it wants to rest for 10 years. Like where would it want to go and lay down? Maybe even envisioning as you are resting that the people supporting your rest, taking care of all the other needs so you can just let go and rest. People are celebrating you for resting. I know when I first started doing this work, there was such exhaustion that, I originally came into the somatic trauma resolution, of course, and working with sexuality because that is often hand in hand with sexuality is, what keeps us holding, what keeps us back from really enjoying it, but also how it can be from so many different avenues of life. And, you know, when we can give those parts of ourselves time to just get what they need, even if it's for a few minutes, it can do a lot for us. Because I know for me, there was that part that wanted to sleep for 10 years. And I remember in one session, I just let my my therapist just watch me rest for 10 minutes. And it was the most a magical thing because we don't get celebrated in that rest. I don't know if you follow the NAP ministry, but I love all the teachings around that, right? Like just the revolution and rest. Yeah. And you can, and even just being here on this call and like being here for these 3 days, giving yourself some of this nourishing time that you need for yourself. That's kind of the steps that it takes to bring out more of the aliveness. Like, what needs attention? It's standing in the way of it that I can be with so that I can feel more sensual, that I can feel my feminine fire again, that I can feel that aliveness that maybe it's bright and maybe you're just here to like keep fanning the flames. Maybe it's feeling kind of dulled and you're really wanting to get the oxygen blown on that little ember so it can like start to flame again. But And I'd love to share too if you feel like you'd like to share, or if you want to come on camera, you're welcome to. Of course, you don't have to either. But if there's any questions that you have, I wanted to leave some time for questions and for digestions and anything else that you might need or want to learn in this realm. I'm going to really quick check the group too. Hello. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's great to be here. And it feels so nourishing, like you said, just to take this time, like an hour. It's middle of the day well, for you. I'm a couple of hours ahead of you. But yeah, just to take this time and devote it to me. And, um, yesterday I was doing tasks while I was listening. And actually, I found I was more present when my body was engaged in doing something that wasn't requiring anything from my mind.
Mhm.
I was able to drop in even more than today. I was sitting here and then I was distracted by other things on my desk, and so
Yeah.
it was interesting to witness that and to see how just having that little bit of something to do with my body. I'm not overtired. I'm a little bit more like I've been sitting too much, so being able to be up and doing something productive but still really being immersed felt really good.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
interesting too,
Yeah.
because sometimes I think I learned one time that if we are trying to remember something, that it can sometimes be helpful to be doing a different task, like working on a puzzle or
Mm,
doodling. So oftentimes, and even, kind of
mm.
this information can feel a little like heavy too. So maybe just like even letting a shake. Um, because it can
Exactly.
feel like you want to move. So it
Mhm.
would make
Yeah.
sense, that you were involved in like the peeling and the repairs and all of that. So you were like fully embodied in the experience
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
and it was a very sensual experience with pear juice up to my elbows.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, thank you so much for making this space.
Yeah, of course. And I also, if anybody wants, I have a audio version of that meditation that I'll send. I'll send it in the email. But if for any reason you don't get it, just let me know, because I think the beautiful thing about it is, the more you do it, the easier it becomes to kind of tune in. And the self-trust piece, all these are so connected to our sensuality and enjoying that part of us, because if we can't, you know, we want to be able to trust ourselves to enjoy what we enjoy. We want to trust ourselves to know what that is and to really be able to let go more fully. It's because when we can more fully trust that we can like hold ourselves, then we can really surrender to the depths of pleasure that's available, right? We can really surrender to what we want, because that can feel very scary. And especially, when we talk about pleasure, like that's something that comes up a lot for people, is not feeling like they can let go, not feeling like they can surrender. So this is a huge part of like getting that fire awakened, being able to surrender and enjoy the pleasure and all the things, right? Being able to really be with all of life, because it's not, always the pleasure, but I sometimes think the more we can hold, the more of all of it we have more capacity for, right? We have more capacity to be with the challenges. We have more capacity to be with the pleasures too. Well, thank you so much for being here. I am going to, and I think I mentioned this, but I'm giving away prizes because I like prizes and they're fun. And so I have some beautiful things to give away. And so how you can win the prizes is just by showing up, being here live, watching the replay, um, commenting and things like that. Then you get entered. And then on tomorrow at the end of the thing, I got a little prize wheel going with everyone's name. And then I'm going to give away some cool things like a beautiful sensuality box and like a VIP session with me. And there's going to be fun things on there. So we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to dive more into kind of the how this all comes together in relationship. And I look forward to seeing you there. And please, yeah, if you have more questions, reach out. You can email me directly, amanda@amandatessa.com, or you can post in the Facebook group. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Oh, and just as we close, let's just maybe take a breath or two just to close the space, just to invite in some of that completion energy, that we can close this part of our day and move on to the next. All right. Thank you so much.